Yo, what's up, Nothing Burgers? Appreciate you guys tuning in. Unfortunately, it's just me this time. Gavin is out. He's fixing his car, but I came across this insane Piers Morgan, Mehdi Hasan exchange. I guess it's a Mehdi Hasan and Piers Morgan exchange as it happened as an exclusive interview for Zateo. But anyways, appreciate everybody tuning in. This is a Nothing Burger drive-through. We're going to react along. Hit the like button and let's hop to it.
Do you condemn Benjamin Netanyahu's terrorism against the children of Gaza?
I wouldn't categorize it as you do as terrorism, although I do think that they've committed some acts which I do think are acts of terrorists. You're not going to get me to say that what Israel's been doing is terrorism, because I believe they are defending.
Why not, though, is what I'm wondering. You said 40 babies killed, some of them being beheaded. That's right. None of them were beheaded.
Right, okay.
And so, you said it as fact.
Okay, but why are you defending Hamas?
That's your response. So when I say to you, for example, is Trump a racist? Yes or no?
I don't think he is. No.
So why does he say racist stuff?
I don't think he's a racist. I've known him.
No. Why does he say racist stuff? Why does he say racist stuff, Piers?
Mehdi, I don't know.
This is my favorite quote. To those who warned this was what was going to happen with Trump, you've been proven right. It's a sobering moment. Yeah, I was right and you were wrong. But I don't see any humility from you today when it comes to Trump.
No.
Pretty quick, just want to jump in there, give you guys a taste of what's to come. Pretty spicy stuff. I'm going to react along as the time comes, but I'm going to let this entire video play out with my reactions. Let's go.
Hello, many of you have seen me appear on Piers Morgan's show, Piers Uncensored, this year. I've watched me have some pretty lively debates on that show with him as a guest. Well, today I'm delighted to say that the tables have turned. Piers Morgan is joining me here as a guest on my show, Mehdi Unfiltered, here in New York City. Piers, welcome to the show.
Well, to be honest, you've dominated the interviews we do on my show so much people think that was on your show anyway.
Well, let's see if you can return the favor today. There is much to discuss. I want to talk about the two big issues that you've covered on your show this year that's made your show huge around the world. And it's two issues I talk about often when I come on your show, but I want to hear your views. So this is a great opportunity for us and for our audience. There is a question you have repeatedly asked all your Palestinian and pro-Palestinian guests, and you had a lot of them, to be fair.
Do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? Oh my goodness, but what about Hamas? No, Israel's not a bunch of terrorists. What about Hamas?
There's one question you ask almost all of them, to the point where it's become a bit of a joke, a bit of a meme. So let me start by asking you a version of that question.
Here's a joke.
Do you condemn Benjamin Netanyahu's terrorism against the children of Gaza?
Well, I wouldn't categorize it as you do as terrorism, although I do think that they've committed some acts which I do think are acts of terrorists. For example, the aggressive, violent expansion on the settlements on the West Bank. I think you could inarguably say, well, that's a form of terrorism. My hesitation in using that categorization for what Israel has done in Gaza is that, as I've said to Palestinian guests, I'm not sure how else people expected or how else the Israeli government should have responded to the terror attack of October the 7th, given the monumental scale of what happened that day. It seemed to me Hamas knew exactly what Israel would do, didn't care about its civilians, was hiding amongst them, had a tunnel system, and thought, bring it on.
And I think it's really important that Mehdi had Piers on to kind of lay out his entire view on the situation, which Mehdi is going to debunk myth after myth, and agree with Piers, when the time comes for it. But it's so important that he did this because so many people have the same kind of outlook on this matter as Piers Morgan does. It might sound insane to all of us on the left. We've watched all the footage. We've seen how horrible it is. We're individuals who are relatively inclined to peace across the board, right? That's what we want to see happen. We have to remind ourselves that most Westerners are not that way, particularly people from, the flagship five, Western countries of like the United States, Australia, Great Britain, New Zealand, the ones who will really lead the charge when it comes to global imperialism. The people in those countries are heavily propagandized. I mean, most certainly Americans, to take credit for our own country, but also British folks. They're conditioned to believe that, oh, of course this is going to happen. Of course, if you dare attack a country like England or Israel or the United States, then of course the response is not going to be tenfold, it's going to be 100-fold, right? So they almost view it as if these people had it coming, and we might say, okay, but when are you gonna say enough is enough? For Piers Morgan, he just laid it out. Enough is only when they branch out into the West Bank, because another thing that people in the global West, in the Americas and Great Britain, we understand property, we understand lines on the map, we understand all of that shit. So you can just see where their sympathies lie. And I'm really excited to watch Mehdi Hasan kind of unpack all of this. Okay, that'll be my interruption for a little bit, but here we go.
Let's have this out. So I've always felt that Israel not only had a right to defend itself, but had a moral duty to defend its people.
By killing Palestinian kids?
Well, listen, my brother served tours of Iraq and Afghanistan in the British Army, as did my brother-in-law. There are military all through my family. They've all taken part in conflicts where civilians, including children, have been killed. I think the particular problem in Gaza is that half the population are under 18, of 2 million, and that clearly a disgusting amount of children have been killed in this conflict. So my answer to your question, I wouldn't categorize it as terrorism to respond to a terror attack by going to kill the terrorists. However, has it got completely unacceptable, the level of civilian death that has been going on in Gaza, particularly children? I say yes, and this has to stop.
What is the acceptable level of death?
Well, I don't know. That's why I've always said from the start, what is proportionate? What do people expect people to do? I mean, for example, when America, after 9/11, went into Iraq, as you know, I waged a campaign at the Daily Mirror newspaper against it. I thought it was an illegal.
But you haven't waged a campaign against this?
Well, because the point about Iraq was,
that's actually crazy. This might be a sign of me not paying attention over the years, but I had no idea that Piers Morgan was actually on the side of opposing the Iraq invasion. Very few people were on the side of opposing the Iraq invasion in mainstream media. We've talked a lot about how Jesse Ventura was never allowed to host his show on MSNBC. They gave him millions of dollars instead of letting him do a single episode that was on air. We talked about how Phil Donahue, was a critic of the war. They canceled his MSNBC show. And of course, there's the infamous Oscar acceptance speech for Bowling for Columbine, where Michael Moore calls it out as an illegal war, says there are no weapons of mass destruction, and almost had his life taken from him. He had to hire round-the-clock personal security. I mean, his entire family was threatened. There was such a jingoistic fervor. It was very difficult to stand up in opposition to the Iraq war. So for Piers to have demonstrated that level of understanding when it comes to geopolitics and then to completely remove himself from that now, I don't know if that's a sign of him, just paying less attention. That was 20 years ago. Now he's an older man. He must be, more sympathetic towards, protectionist. I have no idea, but that's crazy to see him go from that to a Trump supporter.
They didn't perpetrate 9/11. Nothing to do with it. So it's
about the goal, not the conduct of the war. I'm asking you about the conduct.
Yeah,
right? I don't want to have an argument about the goals.
I understand.
I'm saying if you kill, for example, you saw the video, because I know you were on social media as much as I am, a video that Washington Post verified of a little kid, 13 years old, is attacked by a drone, minding his own business. He's not Hamas. There's no Hamas hiding behind him. He's attacked. As he's bleeding out and people come to help him, they attack again. That's a double tap. It's what Al-Qaeda and ISIS do, double tap strike. How is that not an act of terror?
Well, because
it's also what the United States does when we want to.
Kids are killed deliberately.
I've seen a lot of videos. Some of them are.
But that one specifically, is that an act of terror in your view?
It is in your eyes.
No, I'm asking your view.
Well, no, I haven't seen the one you're talking about. What I would say about it is that I want to see all of these things properly investigated and to establish whether there have been war crimes committed. And if they have been, absolutely hold the people who perpetrated it to account.
So you think Yahya Sinwar is a terrorist, right?
Yeah.
And there was an arrest warrant request for Yahya Sinwar from the International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan, British lawyer. He's also put out an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu. He's accused Netanyahu, well, he's asked for one. The court is being lobbied not to do it. He's put out an arrest. He's asked for an arrest warrant, and the indictments he's put out include, this is what he's accused Netanyahu of: starvation, murder, willful killing, extermination. How is Netanyahu not a terrorist, Piers?
Well, it may end up being that he is convicted of war crimes that suggest he's a terrorist.
But Sinwar wasn't convicted of.
Well, Sinwar.
I'm just being consistent. The ICC chief prosecutor put out warrant for both.
Here's the difference. Hamas made no secret of what they did on October the 7th. Sinwar directed and ordered that attack. No one
Nor is Israel.
That. Yeah, but what the difference is that Hamas said, here are the GoPro cameras. We are going to show the world what we're doing here.
So is Israel. I just mentioned a video where a kid is killed on camera. Yeah. In fact, Israeli soldiers have put out TikToks of their war crimes, Piers.
You're not going to get me to say that what Israel's been doing is terrorism, because I believe they are defending
Why
their
not,
people.
though, is what I'm wondering. It seems to be just a stubborn resistance.
Because any country in the world that had October the 7th perpetrated against them would do what Israel.
Clearly, you can see through that, though, because 9/11 happened in America, and you were like, no, we shouldn't go into Iraq. Maybe he cheerleaded for a war with Saudi Arabia. Maybe he was like, what are you talking about? All of the people that, or the majority of the people that did this are Saudi. We have to invade Saudi Arabia. America needs to invade Saudi Arabia. Maybe that was the drum he was beating, but I would imagine that he understood that, yes, 9/11 was a horrible tragedy. And yes, we should hold the perpetrators to account, right? Of course we didn't. We ushered the bin Laden family out of America, right? We invaded the wrong country. We escalated in 2 wars instead of 1, and then fanned out to take over all of the Middle East. But he seemingly was able to see through that. This time he's decided not to, and that's what's so crazy about this, because I feel like so many people just make this weird ideological exception for Israel.
Well, it's done.
No, they wouldn't.
Yes, they would.
They would have killed kids at this level.
No, if you had literally a country on your border.
Well, it's not a country on your border, it's occupied territory. I think you've conceded yourself in previous
I have actually said to you, I believe it is occupied territory.
Okay, then, so it's not a country on your border.
Let's call it, what do you want to call it?
Occupied territory.
Okay, well, let's call it Gaza.
Okay.
That on one single day, in 13 different entry points, 3,000 people came through and committed as much mayhem and murder as they could possibly commit in a deliberate attempt to destabilize and take down Israel, which is the intention of their original charter. If that happened on any border, shared border in the world, there is no country in the world that would not have responded with military force in the way that Israel has done.
I don't agree with that. But let me say you're right.
Well,
every country would have done that. Doesn't make it not terrorism.
No, but then what you're saying is that any country that then goes after terrorists that perpetrate that kind of attack automatically themselves become terrorists.
No,
I dispute that categorization.
No, I'm saying that's a straw man.
Well, give me an example where they're not terrorists.
I just gave you an example. They could have responded to Hamas without attacking a kid, killing the kid, and when people come to rescue him,
how about not bombing schools and hospitals? What the fuck?
Attacking them as well. I can be here all day. We don't have the time.
So
I can go through. They didn't need to attack
when
an apartment building.
When American
We're
forces,
not doing whataboutism. We're not doing whataboutism.
When they went after ISIS,
yeah,
but they killed a lot of innocent children. In the
process. I think those were acts of war crimes. I think war crimes are acts of terror. Yes.
So if you go after,
I don't think.
So if you go after any terror group.
The United States is the #1 global exporter of terrorism. Anybody who tells you otherwise is deeply misled or a propagandist.
The world.
No, I'm saying if you hold on, Piers. The definition of terrorism, according to every dictionary, is the use of political violence against civilians for political goals. That is what Netanyahu is doing. He said it openly. Israelis have said it on your show.
Well, he's responding to a terrorist attack
by doing more terrorism.
I don't.
He's killed 30.
So that gives you carte blanche to do whatever you want. Again, Piers, follow your own logical conclusions. Because there was a Boston bombing, do we get to do whatever the fuck we want to whatever country that guy got immigrated from another country, I believe, right? Or his, maybe his recent family members did. Should we investigate them too? Let's go after all of it. We have the right to do everything. It gives you carte blanche. What about the guys that? What about Timothy McVeigh? Should we go after whatever? I don't know. It's just like, look at that. Should we? I don't know. Take out his entire neighborhood? Should we kill all the kids he went to school with? Do you guys understand? We do our own terrorism even in our own country. Okay, so to act like this mass killing, and again, the scale of the 10/7 attacks, of course they were horrible, right? But if you look at what America has done, even in my lifetime, right? Even in my own lifetime, I'm 26 years old. We have gone to war with like 9 countries, and that's what we know of. That's what we know of, guys. Google AFRICOM. Okay, we don't even know what's going on down there half the time. So anyway, I digress. I'm trying not to interrupt too much.
3 times as many people as Yahya Sinwar.
Let me be clear.
But Sinwar's a terrorist.
Let me be clear. Netanyahu should absolutely no longer be Prime Minister of Israel.
Should he be at the ICC?
Probably, yeah.
So if the warrant comes down, you support the UK arresting him if he comes to the UK?
I absolutely think that his alleged war crimes, and I use that because they've not been substantiated, his alleged war crimes should absolutely be investigated.
This doesn't make any sense.
Only Israeli war crimes have to be investigated. If you are from any other country in the Middle East, we'll take the media's word for it. We'll take the United States government's word for it.
I agree with you. No. I agree with you that they haven't been substantiated, but I'm being consistent. I'm saying everyone, Hamas, Israel, should be substantiated in investigation. You're saying one side's terrorists based on GoPro, but the other side's not terrorists, even though we've watched them kill thousands of people on camera. Literally, I've seen it. I saw them gun down an old lady holding a white flag.
Hamas have made no secret that what they did was terrorism.
Nor of Israel. Have you listened to Israeli soldiers? You should watch our documentary. It's called Israel's Real Extremes. It shows Israeli soldiers talking proudly about what they've done in Gaza.
You have to be a lunatic to not know at this point. And Piers covers this for a living. He's not a lunatic. He's just being willingly obtuse. He's just trying not to look like an absolute two-faced bitch right now when Mehdi Hasan's walking him like a little dog because he knows he's doing propaganda for a terrorist state, and he knows he's going to be a little bitch dog to Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump is a loser. Because what Piers Morgan is not smart enough to do was read the polls correctly and use his own insight to see between the lines. Anyway, that's another digression for another day. Check out the Vanguard's videos on polling.
It's not just a T word, Piers, that you've been reluctant to use in relation to Israel, but also the G word. Genocide.
It's not genocide.
Why are you, so let's talk about that. Why are you perfectly happy to call what Russia is doing in Ukraine a genocide, but not what Israel's doing in Gaza when there are fewer civilians, far fewer kids killed in Ukraine than in Gaza, arguably way less genocidal rhetoric from the Russian government than we hear from the Israeli government? Why are you so uncensored on Russia but not on Israel?
Look at Mehdi. Look at
I actually thought when you first jumped with that, it was a good point. I hadn't realized I'd used the word genocide in relation to what was going on in Russia. And I did go away and think
in
about
relation
that
to
quite
what's
carefully.
happening in Xinjiang
Because
too.
you've got to be careful about the word genocide. The word genocide is where you deliberately exterminate a group of people based on ethnicity. And the reality about, let's take Gaza first of all. If Israel actually wanted to get rid of everyone in Gaza, they have the military power to do that. They have nuclear weapons. They could just nuke Gaza, as some of them, I suspect, would quite like to do. They've got some massively right-wing headbangers in that government, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich and others, who I suspect wouldn't hesitate to wage a form of genocide. So I accept that completely. But the reality is that there are 2 million people in Gaza, of which, depending which estimate you want to believe, but the official records from the Hamas-run health authority, there are about 45,000 people have died, of which it is estimated that around 15 to 20,000 are Hamas, and the rest are civilians. That's
they're estimated by Israel.
Okay, but there are different figures put out. But let's assume it's in that ballpark. Okay.
No.
Well, okay, but
You can say that.
Here's my point. It's not 2 million people, which Israel
But that's
has.
not the definition of genocide.
Well, isn't it?
No. The Genocide Convention doesn't say you have to kill everyone. By the way, you said this to Bassem Youssef.
Also, how about the fact that it's an absolute clear attempt at ethnic cleansing? What do they want? They want the land. Where do they want those people? Anywhere the fuck else besides it. We'll kill you. We'll make you forcibly leave, right? They were like, oh, evacuate to Egypt. Oh, evacuate somewhere else. We're never giving you your land back. That is textbook ethnic cleansing. Guess what an ethnic cleansing is, folks? Say it for the back. Hello? Hello? Piers, can you hear me? It's a genocide, whether you think it's an ugly word or not, whether you think it's disgusting, whether that you think it's warranted. Apparently you're a cheerleader for genocide.
Our good friend last week on the show, he said, well, I'll read you exactly what he said. Israel hasn't nuked Gaza, quote, they could have done. They haven't done that. If you're really genocidal, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
But Russia has the ability to nuke Ukraine too. Russia has the biggest stockpile of nuclear warheads in the world. So why hasn't Russia not doing a genocide?
No, I don't think they are, and I shouldn't have said that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in order to defend Israel, you're withdrawing your allegation against Russia.
Yeah, because you made me think about it. I didn't remember that I'd used that word in relation to.
But it's not just Russia.
Why are you thinking about it so hard when it comes to what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Palestine? Because you have this idea that you're married to, that Israel is somehow morally just. That's what's crazy, guys. We forget, because in most of our lifetimes that we've been politically conscious, Israel has been committing absolute insane crimes that we can all see on our cell phones. And of course, this comes before even 10/7, for the last decade. And honestly, throughout the entire Trump administration, but even before then, that was when I first started paying attention to it even mildly. You could see the absolute barbarism with which the IDF was behaving, right? But Piers Morgan, for his entire life, had been inundated with all this propaganda that it was the most moral army in the world. And now he has to post hoc defend it. You know what I mean? It's absolutely crazy.
Because you've said it about many people.
Well, okay. So
you said Bashar al-Assad in 2012, 1 year into the civil war in Syria, when the death toll was much lower than Gaza. You said it was a genocide. You said the Rohingya in Burma.
Well, that's interesting.
Hold on. You said Rohingya in Burma.
Answer.
I'm finished my question. Then you answer. Okay. You said the Rohingya in 2017, far less death toll in Burma, is a genocide. So I look at Piers Morgan and I say, here's this uncensored person, very bold, outspoken, opinionated man. He says Syria's a genocide. Burma's a genocide. Ukraine's a genocide. Israel? No, it's not a genocide. And now today, actually, I'm going to withdraw the charge of genocide of Ukraine. That's how much I don't want to accuse Israel of genocide.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It feels like you're afraid.
No, the other examples I would give, I would say absolutely there was genocidal intent. You did make me think.
Do you know the difference? The difference is the global media structure, Western popular culture will accept you if you call those other things genocide. They'll accept you if you agree with the American imperial line. But if you challenge it for 1 second, you suddenly become pretty censored, Piers.
Think about what was happening in Russia and Ukraine. And the reality is, as people know in that area, it is complicated because a lot of the people in the Donbass, for example, speak Russian, right? And some of them, a percentage of them, do identify as Russian and would quite like to go back to being Russian. So I think to use the word genocide about what Russia is doing there is the wrong term. And I shouldn't have used it.
So
I wasn't aware
are you withdrawing it on Syria and Burma as well?
No, because I think they are definitely a genocidal intent. A genocidal intent. What you want people to believe is that what Israel is doing, without any reference to October the 7th, they want to basically kill
Bashar al-Assad would say exactly what Netanyahu says. He says, I'm fighting terrorists. They're hiding amongst civilians in Homs.
Let me ask you.
Assad uses the same...
Let me throw it back at you.
No. To quote you, this is my show. I've got limited time. I'm asking you questions. Bashar al-Assad would say exactly what Netanyahu says. He says, I'm fighting terror. I don't believe him, and you don't believe him. We don't like Bashar al-Assad. We agree on Assad.
Yes.
But he would say exactly what Netanyahu says. I'm fighting terrorists who are hiding amongst civilians in Homs, and I'm bombing them.
And that's exactly what Putin would say. He would say, "Oh, these people are all culturally Russian. These people they want to become a Russian. This is the Russian territory. These people that are like a bunch of crazy people like Kim Iverson came out. They were like, these people are all cousins, guys. Oh, they're all cousins. Just let Putin do whatever they want. That's what people will say. It's the exact same argument. It's crazy.
I'm fighting a war of self-defense.
Yeah. Oh no, these people actually, they want to be, Russia. They're just, they're being prevented by these, embedded Ukrainian forces, right? Oh my gosh, like the people of Palestine want to be liberated from Hamas using all the vile, fucking horrible tactics that were, have at our disposal. It's crazy.
You say genocidal. I say, yeah, maybe genocidal. Israel says Amalek. They say total annihilation. They say we're going to destroy Gaza. We're going to level it, etc. You say not genocidal. I don't get it.
I don't think it is genocide, no.
Even though the facts say otherwise. Holocaust historians like Omar Bartov and Amos Goldberg, Arian Nair, some of the experts on Holocaust say it is a genocide.
Yeah, but a lot of experts say it's not a genocide.
That's not actually some of the leading Holocaust experts are lining up in one direction.
You've got your experts. I've seen many.
You've got your experts. I've got my experts. My expert says the earth is flat. Your expert says the earth is round. My expert says that, global warming is a hoax. Your experts say it's real. Who cares, right? Let's keep burning petrol.
The other experts who say it's not genocide. So you can, look.
I just find it fascinating that you'll call every other conflict which has fewer deaths than Gaza genocide. But for some reason,
you're very deaths in Syria.
There were in February 2012. I checked. Huh? You said it was a genocide in February 2012. See, I do my homework. I checked. 7,500 people in Syria being killed at that point. You said genocide. 45,000 people in Gaza. You say not genocide.
Well, it comes down to what you think the intent is of the people perpetrating.
You don't think they're trying to erase northern Gaza right now?
I think what they're doing.
Are you seeing what's happening in northern Gaza?
Here's what I think they're doing. I think Israel genuinely believe what they're trying to do is eliminate Hamas, who they perceive to be a terrorist.
I think you're speaking on behalf of Israelis who aren't saying that. They're making it very clear. It's not just about Hamas. They're seizing territory in Gaza. They're planning to, some of them are planning to resettle in Gaza. And right now, northern Gaza, according to the UN humanitarian chief, everyone is at risk of dying, Piers. Everyone. That's the words of the UN humanitarian chief.
Don't misunderstand me. I think what's happening in Gaza is horrific.
You just won't say genocide?
No. You asked me if it's genocide. I don't think it is. And you asked me if it's terrorism. I don't think it is. Do I think it's got unacceptable, the level of civilian death? Absolutely.
But you do think Netanyahu probably could end up at the ICC?
Do I think that they have no plan for the end of this? Absolutely. Do I think Netanyahu and the headbangers and his cabinet should go? Absolutely. Do I think Hamas should have any authority going forward? No. So there are lots of ways that we can try and.
I know, but ultimately history will judge where you were on this, and they'll say you were right on Iraq and you didn't really come on board on Gaza.
I don't think they'll find that you were right about calling it terrorism or genocide.
Okay.
We'll see.
I hope you're right.
I hope he's right too, but Piers Morgan is showing that he will shit bricks before he will condemn Israel.
Obviously, I don't want it to be a genocide, but it looks like one, sounds like one, walks like one. Just on last, I do want to talk about Donald Trump with you, but just on this topic, October 7th was bad enough. I think we can both agree. The kidnapping and killing of civilians, war crimes, without anyone having to exaggerate how bad it was. And yet, given the way a genocidal Israeli government, in my view, not yours, has used atrocity propaganda to try and justify the mass killing of Palestinians, especially Palestinian children. And the October the 7th, some would argue, even got as a Palestinian-American child killed in Illinois. There's an argument that that guy was infuriated by talk of beheaded babies, etc. Do you regret, Piers, a year later, having used your very big platforms, YouTube, Twitter, to spread that atrocity propaganda, to repeat the Israeli line uncritically, saying, and I quote, 40 babies being killed, some of them.
Oh, man. And that is where Mehdi cuts it off and it becomes a paid episode. If you guys liked what you saw there, go ahead and become paid members over at Zateo. Mehdi Hasan is doing absolutely great work. Their dog walks Piers Morgan over Trump and Israel. Guys, I really appreciate you tuning in. Unfortunately, Gavin's not here. It's a little more lackluster when it's just me, a little more neurotic, a little more erratic, but I try and come at you guys, give you some bonus episodes. I'm trying to get better at being on the microphone. You guys know how that goes. Appreciate you tuning in to this little drive-through episode of the Nothing Burger. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Check out our much more polished and refined content when I've got my pal Gavin with me over on the Vanguard main channel. And Gavin will be dropping clips as well to this channel in due time. Really appreciate you all. Mwah. Kisses. Goodbye.